think we are live, ladies and gentlemen.
How's it going?
Welcome back. We have something quite special today. We are going to be watching a live stream recording. Oh, let me go ahead and mute my computer up here. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, we're going to be watching the Treasury Secretary Yellen and the Fed Chair Powell testify before Congress, and we're going to throw some critiques, kind of throw some interpretations, make some fun, crack some jokes. We hope you guys are having a wonderful morning. We appreciate everyone that is joining us on today's stream. Be sure to like the stream. It helps us with the algorithm, gives us some stuff. Yeah, well, without further ado, guys, let's get cracking to it. Oh, yeah, by the way, hope you guys like the Lunar Apes background we got going on. We got some special stuff coming for you in the website drop we'll be having coming out within the next 14 days. We'll update you guys on social media. But let's get to it.
Secretary Yellen, Chair Powell, you are now recognized for 5 minutes to present your oral testimony.
Chairwoman Waters, Ranking Member McHenry, and other members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to discuss the measures that we've taken to address the hardship wrought by the pandemic. I'd like to start by noting the upcoming one-year anniversary of the CARES Act. With unanimous approval, Congress provided by far the fastest and largest response to any post-war economic downturn, offering fiscal support for households, businesses, healthcare providers, and state and local governments. This historically important legislation provided critical support in our nation's hour of need. As the virus arrived in force, our immediate challenge was to limit the severity and duration of the fallout to avoid longer run damage. At the Fed, we also acted with unprecedented speed and force, using the full range of policy tools at our disposal. Today, the situation is much improved.
I like it.
While the economic fallout has been real and widespread, the worst was avoided by swift and vigorous action from Congress and the Federal Reserve, from across government and cities and towns, and from individual communities in the private sector. More people held onto their jobs, more businesses kept their doors open, and more incomes were saved. But the recovery is far from complete. So at the Fed, we will continue to provide the economy the support that it needs for as long as it takes. As we have emphasized throughout the pandemic, the path of the economy continues to depend on the course of the virus.
We know one thing for sure.
Since January, the number of new cases, hospitalizations, and deaths has fallen, and ongoing vaccinations offer hope for a return to more normal conditions later this year. In the meantime, continued social distancing and mask wearing will help us reach that goal as soon as possible. Indicators of economic activity and employment have turned up recently. Household spending on goods has risen notably. So far this year, although spending on services remains low, especially in sectors that typically require in-person gatherings.
Get vaccinated, folks.
The housing recovered from the downturn, while business investment and manufacturing production have also picked up. As with overall economic activity, conditions in the labor market have recently improved. Employment rose by 379,000 in February as the leisure and hospitality sector recouped about two-thirds of the jobs it lost in December and January. The recovery has progressed more quickly than generally expected and looks to be strengthening. This is due in significant part to the unprecedented fiscal and monetary policy actions I mentioned, which provided essential support to households.
Don't worry, guys. He's only on for 5 minutes.
However,
then we'll begin the breakdown of what he has to say.
Most adversely affected
you
by the
should
resurgence
be concerned
of the virus and by greater
with
social
AMC
distancing
will be taking away my home soon.
And the unemployment rate, still elevated at 6.2%,
I agree, Talk Toronto, I agree.
Underestimates the shortfall, particularly as labor market participation remains notably below pre-pandemic levels. We welcome this progress, but will not lose sight of the millions of Americans who are still hurting, including lower wage workers in the services sector, African Americans, Hispanics, and other minority groups that have been especially hard hit.
Sleep with a tie, for sure.
The Fed's response has been guided by our mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people, along with our responsibilities to promote the stability of the financial system.
Oh, David Lopez with the gorillas.
Pressure last year, we took broad and forceful actions, deploying both our conventional and emergency lending tools to more directly support the flow of credit.
Baby apes.
Our actions, taken together, helped unlock more than $2 trillion in funding to support businesses large and small, nonprofits, and state and local governments between April and December. This support, in turn,
So he's
has helped
basically just
organizations
boasting about what
not
he's done
shutter
during
their
his term at
businesses
this
and
point,
put
guys.
employers in both a
As all
better position to
politicians
keep
do.
workers on and to hire
like
them
to
back as the recovery continues.
Toot
Our
their own horn.
programs served as a backstop to key credit markets and helped restore the flow of credit from private lenders through normal channels. We deployed these lending powers to an unprecedented extent last year. Our emergency lending powers required the approval of the Treasury.
Hell
They
yeah,
are
Tim.
available
Yeah,
only in
Tim.
very unusual circumstances.
This dude looks like a grandma.
Many of these programs were supported by funding from the CARES Act.
We love you. We love you,
Those
Nicole.
facilities provided essential support through a very difficult year. They are now closed, and the Federal Reserve has returned the large majority of the Treasury's CARES Act equity as required by law. Our other emergency lending facilities are following suit imminently.
Yeah,
Although
definitely,
we recently
Tim.
extended the PPPLF for another quarter to continue to support
Here
the PPP.
we go. By the dip.
By
Everything the
dip.
Fed does
Here we
is
go.
in service to our public mission. We are committed to using our full range of
We'll
tools
keep
to
listening
support
to him
the
talk
economy
real quick, you guys. I'm
and to
just
help
going to
assure
make
that the
a
recovery
quick cut
from this
until he
difficult
says something
period will
interesting.
be as robust as
I want to
possible
see what's
on
going
behalf
on
of
the
communities,
Weebos
families,
real
and businesses
quick.
across the
Let's
country.
see, let's see.
Thank you. I look forward to your
Top
questions.
gainers, DLPN,
Thank you very,
BNTC.
very much, Chairman Powell.
We got some action.
I now
We got some action.
recognize myself for 5 minutes for questions. On
Ooh,
March
she
11th,
recognizes
President
herself.
Biden signed the
like it.
American Rescue Plan Act into law, providing an additional $1.9 trillion package that is already helping individuals, families, and small businesses. The American Rescue Plan
That's that
also
stimmy, you guys.
includes
Stimmies for the
$77
winnies.
billion in our committee's jurisdiction, including a $21.5 billion to pay the back rent and future rent payments, which will not only help renters
Yeah, we
remain
definitely got to keep
stably
that housing
housed,
market up. We
but
definitely don't want a
support
repeat of
small
2008.
landlords
Right.
who've also been struggling. Congress has now provided the Treasury Department
For
with
self-aware
more
AI,
than
yo.
$46 billion in emergency rental
Yo.
assistance to distribute to states,
The
local
infinity.
Her
communities,
necklace has
tribes,
infinity
and
symbol.
territories to
This
help
must
struggling
be a
families
sign.
pay their rent and utilities. My state
We
of
call those
California
synchronicities
is
in my guru
expected to
world, Jake.
receive
Don't worry,
somewhere
my
in
more
the
recent book
amount
will
of
be coming out soon more about it.
$4.67 billion.
It is a sign, though.
However, I am increasingly concerned with how the program is being implemented by grantees. In particular, California just launched a program that greatly limits the amount of assistance renters can receive, even if they owe more. Secretary Yellen, what has been the progress so far in implementing the program? What guidance is Treasury providing to ensure grantees are setting up programs that actually stabilize renters and make landlords whole?
Thank you for that question, Chairwoman Waters. We have distributed the money to state, local, and tribal grantees.
She's definitely green screened.
The act,
She's like, this
the
is what a normal person's
Consolidated
house must look like.
Appropriations Act
Haven't been
that
in one in
started this
years. My mansion is
program
so big.
does specify that grantees can only provide assistance to households where one or more individuals are experiencing unemployment or hardship, that they demonstrate a risk of experiencing
make sure you guys file for
homelessness
unemployment if you want
or
some money.
housing stability, and that the household has income at 80% of the area median or below, and that the assistance can be for up to 15 months. We're trying to provide grantees
How do you guys
with
feel about getting money in these kinds of forms of packages? Has it directly affected you guys? Would you say it's been beneficial? Did your stimmy actually cover anything? Or did you just do like me and kind of go all in on AMC?
Needs as
I'd like
they
to know.
see it.
I'm really curious.
The role of
be sure you guys
Treasury
comment on that.
here is
I want to hear what you have to say.
provide policy
Puts us more in
guidance
tune with what's going on
so that
with the
grantees
actual
can
Americans.
establish and follow their own program policies to meet local needs. And we're developing outreach and technical assistance so that grantees can understand best practice. Of course, we have a role in monitoring to make sure that the payments
Support
are
your local
reaching
strip joint.
intended
Help the economy.
populations.
Secretary Yellen, I hate to interrupt you. My time is going to be up shortly, but I am
Oh,
very
don't worry. I only
concerned
use
about the
Stimmy on AMC.
flexibility
I
that the
already own
states
a bunch
have.
of GME.
And I don't
Been
really
holding
know
that
what
since
all of that
pre-Stimmy's
means.
gimme.
But I do
Hold
know
the
that
line.
there's a lot of confusion because some states had moratorium programs, some cities had moratorium programs, the federal government has a moratorium program. And so I think that's confusing to our renters. In addition to that, for the state of California to say that they're going to pay 80% of the rental assistance rather than 100% bothers me somewhat. And I don't know what other states are doing. And I know that the federal government does guidance.
GME
So
tie-up?
I'd like to know if you can think
Thoughts on
about any role that
SLGG?
we can play to help straighten out
Hit that on
confusion
the,
and to help stabilize this rental assistance.
SLGG.
yeah.
Congresswoman, we
Bot, stock,
did distribute
Super League Gaming.
frequently
Max
asked
D, silver.
questions
Ooh.
revised
I
from
like the
the
silver
previous
investment. Max D's
administrations
we've
to
been looking at that penny
try to
stock. It's definitely
provide
something to keep on your
additional
radar, guys.
guidance. But if you have concerns, my staff will be glad to work with you in your office to see if it's possible to address them.
Oh, that's funny.
Thank you
Secretary
very much.
Yellen.
I
She
appreciate
was like,
that
we can
because
talk
there
off the
is
record on
confusion
that
out
if you
there,
want, not
and
in front
I'm
of the
worried
American people.
Come to my
about
fireplace.
Yeah.
you know what is
Join me in
happening
my green screen
with this
room. It's actually a
confusion
mansion.
and whether or not our landlords are going to abandon us and not go for another moratorium. And so it's a lot of questions. I will be back for you, and thank you so very much. With that, I now recognize Mr. McHenry for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Nice,
And look,
Nicole.
Chair
I like the
Powell
Bitcoin.
and Chairman Powell and
Yo,
Secretary
flexing
Yellen.
hard with those AirPods.
I've
Right.
previously asked about the
Look
question
at
of
that
the
bow tie,
independence
though.
of the Fed
It looks like
and
he's
trying to
like a
get the
peppermint
Secretary
candy
of the
wrapped up
Treasury
and
to
ready to be
opine
eaten.
about that. Dr. Yellen, I would suggest that maybe I need to skip that question with you. I
He
think
kind of
you
looks
have
like
very
Peppermint Butler
practical
from
understanding and knowledge
from Adventure
here
Time.
at play.
Want to really quick,
You'll treat your successor as you wish to have been
guys?
treated.
Tell me what you think. Does he not
when
kind
you
of
were
look
sitting in,
like Peppermint Butler?
Since he is now sitting
Look,
in your chair.
look at this dude. Peppermint Butler, is that you?
Yes. Well, look, it's nice to have two folks that understand this in these respective seats. But Chairman Powell, I want to begin with you and talk about
RC
inflation.
tweeted MCD ice cream.
There's continues to be a great deal of speculation that we should be worried about inflationary pressures, particularly after the passage of the most recent $1.9 trillion spending bill, the so-called stimulus or COVID stimulus bill.
Super League Gaming.
And then we see recent press reports of an additional $3 trillion of spending contemplated by this administration.
Dollar General Anderson Cooper.
The Fed say that there are inflationary pressures and concerns with this rate of spending. What's the view now?
You get the Sunday, Kyle. You get the Sunday.
Thanks. So let me start by saying that we're strongly committed to our price stability mandate, which is, along with our maximum employment mandate, those are the two mandates that you've essentially given us. So, and that we construe that as inflation that is 2% over time, inflation that averages 2% over time. We do expect that inflation will move up over the course of this year, first because of what we call base effects, the very low readings of March and April of last year drop out of the 12-month calculation, and mechanically it
What do you mean
rises,
by
but
that, Talk
goes
Toronto?
away quite
Are they going to
quickly.
say something, and if they do, will the market even believe
Possibly
them?
after
Elaborate
that,
a little bit
we'll
more. I'd like to
see
actually
a
give
situation
a
in which,
statement on what I think
as
you're
the
talking
economy
about, but I want to make
reopens
sure.
and vaccination continues, there could be a surge in spending, and there could be some bottlenecks in the economy. We see some of that now. We might see some upward pressure on prices. Our best view is that the effect on inflation will be neither particularly large nor persistent. And part of that just is that we've been living in a world of strong disinflationary pressures around the world, really, for a quarter of a century. And we don't think that a one-time surge in spending leading to temporary price increases would disrupt that. However, we have the tools to deal with that. We remain strongly committed to inflation expectations anchored at 2%. and we'll use our tools as appropriate.
That's crucial, you guys.
As far as
the inflation
for the fiscal
expectations
policy
anchored at
is
2%
concerned,
is something you
it's
definitely
not
want
up
to
to
take
us
note
to
of. That's going to
as we
affect
discussed
the
on
stock market, bonds,
some
the
occasions.
treasury yields.
We don't comment on fiscal policy. We try not to, particularly on specific bills and things like that. So I'll leave that to others.
Well, Secretary Yellen, about fiscal policy, we have, as Chairman Waters highlighted, the rental assistance, the $25 billion of rental assistance to individuals and families.
Whatever I gotta say to make my stock. I love it, Nicole. I love it.
And we've tried to support them with some rental assistance. What
Oh yeah,
guardrails
for sure,
has the Department of Treasury put in place to ensure that the funds are actually prioritized?
It's always a bit of a ruse, but
the
reason I like to watch this stuff really is one, just to see what the stance
of Treasury's job to establish
on these subjects, but also to look for inconsistencies, because inconsistencies in what they determine is recognized and we'll talk about objectively is a good litmus test to see where your politicians' public stands are. There's a couple of different reasons, but it's good to keep your ear to the streets, if you will. And in this one, I don't mean Wall Street, I mean Capitol Hill Street.
Also that there are requirements of the statute, and that we will, follow up to make sure that the payments are going to eligible households and that the guidelines of the program are being followed.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Yellen. Final question
thanks for that talk, T. We'll definitely do
Secretary Yellen. Your predecessor agreed to very onerous and
let me know how that is.
And strong oversight for the CARES Act. And this current $1.9 trillion has rescinded all those things.
Test for Talk T.
How does that sound, Talk T?
Really appreciate you.
And so what I'd like to hear is your voluntary commitment to work with Congress, the GAO, the Special Inspector Generals, and the Congressional Oversight Commission, as well as
let me know if it's too much or too little.
Well, you have it. I think oversight is very important, and I pledge to
also turn on captions,
work with this committee.
You're a little loud now.
Thank you, Secretary Yellen, and congratulations on your new chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Turn it down too little.
Recognize Ms. Maloney for 5 minutes.
We'll have that. We'll go to.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chair.
All right. What about that,
for
guys?
having this, and welcome, Chairman
I think
Powell
that'll be a good final
Secretary
point.
Yellen. And as the first female Secretary of the Treasury in the history and the first to head the Fed, we are so proud of you and of your many accomplishments, Secretary Yellen. And
really appreciate the feedback, you guys, helping us streamline the process for future premieres. We're hoping in the next year. How cool would it be,
as you know,
vaccines willing, that Stonk News Network had some live cast at some of these sites, able to do some, post-interview questions, create some memes. That's the biggest thing, dude. I'm going to make some living memes out of some of these politicians if I get the chance, man.
I want to thank Ranking Member McHenry for his willingness to compromise. And
thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Steadfast support of this bill over many, many years. The bill requires companies to disclose their true beneficial owners to FinCEN, which is an arm of Treasury, and FinCEN will collect this information in a database which is intended to be the state of art with privacy and security protections. Law enforcement calls it the most important tool that's been given to them to track illegal money activity in 30 years. And this implementation of this is going to be a massive undertaking and will require an enormous amount of resources and manpower at Treasury. I worked on this bill as a top priority for 12 years and implemented it and getting it up and running is a top
3
priority
months out.
of mine. It's incredibly important, I believe, to our national security. We have to get it right. And so my question to you is, will you commit to making beneficial ownership one of your top priorities as Treasury Secretary? We have 2 years to implement it.
What are these tools?
I think it will make all of us safer. I think it's extremely important.
I completely agree with you. It's a very important piece of legislation, and it is one of our highest priorities to implement this promptly and to get it right.
She seems too sweet.
We have a hiring plan. We recognize that significant
I definitely feel like she would read to kindergartners on the weekend.
will be required.
Those are the ones you got to watch out for.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying
That's
to
what I meant by too sweet.
obtain them. We have plans for how to collect the required database, and we're actively working to implement this very important piece of legislation.
Google on Secretary.
Thank you. I want to build on Chair Lady Waters' question. I'm not going to repeat all the things that were in the Important Recovery Act, but my question to you, Secretary Yellen,
She's
and
a Democrat.
Powell, what steps can we take to ensure we don't lose a generation of workers which never return to the workforce or continue to face, or that they face these depressed wages moving forward? We know that over 11 million and a half women lost their jobs compared to 9 million men. Black and Latino women suffered the highest rate of all, and that the women's labor force participation is down 2%, and the families are suffering. We have many aspects of it. A lot of, she mentioned, from rent to food to help in so many ways, but I'm concerned about this labor force that's been hurt. What can we do to help them get back into the labor force? And my question is to you, Secretary Yellen, first, and Chairman Powell.
Get unemployed people back in the labor force. I like that question.
So first of all, in the short term, the American Rescue Plan contains substantial support for minorities and particularly for women.
You know, man, the stock market's behaving strangely.
Forced to drop out
it's a
of
totally
the
new landscape.
labor market.
I've said that before, and I'll continue to say it. What we retail investors are doing to the current landscape of the stock market is revolutionary. No one knows what to expect. I would say, you know, I'm optimistic about the earnings call. I really do hope it gives us some kind of a bump either down or up. I want to see movement. I want to see more volatility with GME. The more volatile GME is, the better I feel. That's just my personal opinion. When GME starts stabilizing, I get uneasy.
Longer term,
but I hope so. I really do hope so. But I can't say for sure if I have any like empirical data or empirical evidence that would suggest so. We can't use historical data any longer in these current situations, and we can really just stay as up to date and as informed as possible to make active real-time decisions in the best possible way. I feel like that is what the advantage of being a retail investor really is we have massive flows of information, and we're able to you know, take advantage of that and really capitalize in real time, even if it's small gains. You know, as individuals, it's large wealth transfer in real time, which I believe is a part of a much bigger thing that's going on, not just in the United States, but in the world. I think wealth redistribution, to accurately reflect the what is it? The productivity is going to be what is really good.
Along with programs that will address some of the long-standing
because I mean, no one works harder than the middle class, period. End of story. No one works harder than the middle class. It's about time that we have mechanisms to reflect that. And I think that's where we're at. And that's why I wake up thrilled every single day to see what kind of, you know, new landscape shapings we're seeing and where I can personally capitalize on, you guys. Every single day, I'm trying to stay up to date to provide everyone here great information. So does Omar. But really, you know, hey man, we're trying to make some money, bro. I'm trying to stack the tendies. I'm trying to be on a yacht by the time I'm 30, man. That's what I'm at.
But food stamps or yacht?
Food stamps or yacht. No in between. It's food stamps or yacht. We're all in, baby.
Will help to pay for those programs.
Well, Secretary Yellen, what tends to be the
Talk Toronto. Big money is more confused and uncomfortable in current market than ape money.
Oh yeah, dude, I agree. Talk T. That's facts. Big facts. Big facts. Stonks. Exactly. Whoa, look at there. Look at this virtual.
Whoa.
Who is that? What is her name?
Corporate taxes have been studied by economists for a long time, and the impact of them on prices.
Let's see, I want to see that lady's background again. That virtual background was legit.
Very unclear from existing studies.
What patch on Zoom you using, honey?
we do need to raise revenues
Imagine
in a
showing someone came up with an 8
way
background too.
to support the spending that this economy needs to be competitive and productive. And
So let me just say this, Secretary Yellen, if I could, I think we know.
Not only is she on a virtual background,
tax rate results in higher
Representative Ann Wagner.
Businesses, schools,
Okay,
and
she's on a virtual
American
background,
households.
and she's probably also using
Then
laptop
why is
audio.
this country
Come on, whoever's in this
needs to
woman's like
reopen
close
and recover
assistants,
economically
get
with
technically
fighting
savvy.
frustration,
Get this woman a lavalier mic or
imposing
something.
tax
Something.
policy,
Some
which
AirPods,
would
maybe?
Yeah,
end
some
the
AirPods. Yeah, yeah.
hurt
Get Peppermint Butler out there.
American family and millions of struggling small businesses.
the Biden
I will say, make up on point
administration
though
is
for her.
not going to propose policies that hurt small businesses or Americans. The Biden administration is going to propose investments this economy has long needed to be competitive and productive, and
Well,
support
with
for
all due respect, ma'am, I would say this: certainly raising taxes on business and industry.
Hey, let's
is
hear it,
going to
Republican.
affect consumer
Yeah,
Was
let's hear it.
Doubtfire.
Was that?
Is this being proposed for tax increases to offset the costs of the recently enacted partisan stimulus package, ma'am?
She needs to use a Top
no,
Gun
the
Maverick background and
stimulus
still.
package, the American Rescue Plan was not funded with any increases in taxes, but a longer
Man, you guys are
term
hilarious.
plan,
I'm living
that
for these comments right
addresses,
now.
critical
really
needs
hasn't-
of this economy probably would be accompanied by some revenue raisers.
Yes, I'd say so. And I'd say that the plan as it exists right now hasn't been paid for. For example, let me just say this. Last month, lumber prices hit an all-time high, doubling.
Yeah,
in
talk about
price
lumber.
just 3 months ago.
Omar, how's that
Gasoline
affecting the
prices jumped
commercial and
64%
residential real estate
over 3
sector,
years.
my
Oh
man?
my gosh, dude.
Electricity
Construction
and
prices are
natural gas prices
gone
hit
up like
40%,
no
not
one's
to mention
business.
housing
I just heard
prices
Omar
and
stressing on the phone the other day. He
manufacturing
was like, "Why is it so damn expensive to build a house?"
increases a sign that
He's
once
livid.
the economy fully reopens, we're likely to see
Getting
parts of the
outrageous.
economy where demand is intense, at least for a period of time, leading to some additional, I think, price pressures. Let me ask you this, Chairman Powell, in my limited time. Could you describe in detail the wide range of policy tools the Fed has at its disposal to address what is obvious inflationary pressures that we're seeing already?
Well, our most basic tools are here to try to achieve price stability, and those principally are interest rates. And
Don't let
moving
these
interest rates
fancy
up and
words
down.
confuse you
As I
guys.
mentioned a few minutes ago, though,
They're trying to ask,
our
how
best
are you going to fight
expectation
inflation?
is
Plain
that
and simple.
there'll be modest upward pressure on prices this year, but that they won't be particularly large or persistent into the future. But we do have those tools, and we'll use them.
Thank you. My time is
It sounds like you just said we have these archaic tools that we're going
Thank
to
you. The
try to
gentleman from
use to
California,
continue
Mr.
to
Sherman,
apply to this
is recognized
really
for 5
outdated
minutes.
structure. That's what it sounds like to me.
Thank you. And addressing the comments of Ms. Wagner, most of the studies I've seen, and obviously Secretary
Who's
of
this guy?
Treasury has seen far more, indicates that increases in corporate income
Brad
taxes
Sherman,
are not
California.
passed through to consumers, but that the incidence of that tax is borne by those who invest capital, and which is disproportionately the top 1%. In contrast, sales taxes are passed through to consumers.
I will say,
I want to use most of my 5 minutes just to bring to the attention of our two august witnesses
predominantly.
some matters that I hope will merit their personal
Oh, these are
attention
representatives,
in the
not.
days to come. Madam Secretary, your
I'm
predecessor
trying to see who else
admitted
Democrat
to
and who else
me, from a
Republican.
foreign policy standpoint, that
Because it seems like
the Treasury Department would
Yellen
put
is a
reasonable
Democrat,
amount of
Powell's a
lawyer hours
Republican.
into doing a tax treaty with Armenia, and I hope that that policy will continue now that the Yerevan government is ready to proceed, having had some discord in the past. Madam Secretary, you have delayed till May 17th, the April 15th deadline for Form 1040. It's very important that you do the same for the first of the 4 Form 1040-ES, the estimated tax payments voucher that is usually prepared at the same time.
That's definitely
It is
another
so
thing, you guys.
important to gig
That
workers.
I can definitely
Madam
tell you
Secretary,
about
2
the
days
case
ago,
in
the
Texas.
IRS issued a report
The state is
indicating
bleeding
that 1/5 of the earnings
tax
of the
taxes because businesses just aren't paying because of what happened with COVID. So the implications of the pandemic on the infrastructure and on tax revenues and on public servants in this instance getting their paychecks and other programs continuing to get funding is a pretty big deal. And it's been interesting to watch how the guys here in Texas, the guys and gals here in Texas have been handling it. If you guys are not from Texas, I want to hear in the comments what it feels like from your perspective, how your representatives, your congressmen and women and senators, how they've been handling, I would say the stress that COVID put on tax revenues being generated for the public programs.
The Recovery Act, especially showing that a decision by California to conform to federal law.
She needs to stop interrupting the sweet old lady.
Recently is very generous to the PPP small businesses. If California conforms to that law, that isn't regarded as a tax decrease violative of the provisions of the Recovery Act that say that states should not be using those funds to cut taxes. Chairman Powell, we've talked a lot about wire fraud. Your staff has told me they don't plan to solve the problem. I hope you get personally involved in making sure our new wire transfer system does solve the problem. And Chairman Powell, I want to commend you for your statement yesterday.
I believe what they're referring to with the wire problem, guys, was when, do you guys remember when for about 3 hours, all ACHs were down? I believe, when was this, like 2 weeks ago? Sometime around there. Yeah, that is a critical infrastructure. There are like planned transfers. If you guys have ever been in commercial residential real estate development or any kind of business where you have to schedule the transferring of money, could you imagine like how many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of transfers are scheduled during a 3-hour window, and how that would affect business deals, handlings, critical funds meeting certain accounts so that they can meet deadlines and make purchases. It's a pretty big impact.
For a smooth transition for these $2 trillion.
Apparently Biden's live right now too.
Yes, I would agree. There is certain legacy contracts where the transition could be difficult without legislation. And so these are contracts that don't provide for a workable fallback rate. And so I think Congress does need to provide legislation for
I think it's
transition.
Ticker symbol $, $.
My remaining time,
just dollar sign.
Can you address the issue of states conforming their laws to their income tax laws to federal income tax law? Is that going to be regarded as a violation of the Recovery Act?
We're working to provide guidelines on what will and won't count, and it's premature for me until we've completed that to offer you an answer on the specifics.
Please,
we'll do it quickly.
Thank you very much. The gentleman's
Put a little bit of public pressure on her to get her job done. Lucas, I like that. I like that guy. His outro was good.
Megamind.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for holding this hearing, and thank you, Chairman Powell and Secretary Yellen, for appearing before the committee.
Whoa.
And of course, Secretary
All
Yellen.
right, we just got Boomer of the Week here, guys. This is
the first woman to serve as Secretary of the Treasury.
Coming to you live with Windows 98.
Yeah, bro. Like, what is this? XP, bro?
You still using Skype?
All opportunities in society will advance to the point where we can no longer use the phrase first woman again. That day will come, hopefully soon. This past Friday, the Fed announced the temporary exclusion of treasuries and reserves from the supplemental leverage ratio will expire at the end of the month.
95, yep.
The announcement also stated that the Fed will seek public comment on potential SLR modifications. Chairman Powell, could you comment if the exclusion of treasuries and reserves from
SLR modifications,
over the past year
that
helped
is
improve U.S. Treasury market conditions and banks' ability to provide credit?
If he's not drunk, I don't know who is.
New Fed SLR.
Punch your button, Mr. Chairman.
Double click there.
Punch your button down.
He must not have any pants on for his camera
so
that high.
as you know, the Treasury
That
market
makes two
was
of us.
experiencing significant
The board temporarily modified
dysfunction
SLR.
during the height of the crisis, and we did a number
Oh,
of things.
wow.
And particularly, we bought a lot of
Okay, guys. So he's talking about the Federal Reserve Board on Friday announced that the temporary change to its supplementary leverage ratio or SLR for bank holding companies will expire as scheduled on March 31st.
Exactly what effect it had. We did the
I'll get you guys a little bit more of
late,
a
and by then there had been
digestible
quite a lot
definition of
market,
what supplementary leverage ratio
recovery.
is
So
really
it's
quick.
hard. It's difficult. I'd love to give you a straight answer, but it's difficult to say just how helpful it was.
I got it.
And in any case, now that danger is long past.
So secondly, to the possible extent that you could elaborate on the timeline of potential SLR modifications that may come in the near future.
So SLR again is a
yes, we expect to put something out for comment.
Supplementary leverage
I can't tell you exactly when that will be, but relatively soon. And we're going to run a very transparent public process, invite comment and consider. I mean, really, the point is that because of the substantial increase in reserves,
SLR is kind of the ratio with which banks calculate the amount of common equity capital they must hold relative to their total leverage exposure. So this pretty much is kind of like an SLD from the one video that I did. This is the amount of money that banks have. This is the ratio used to calculate the amount of money banks feel they need to hold onto with how much they're exposed. So, like, you know, banks loan, they give lines of credit, they do things like that. They have to hold in that bank a certain amount of money. In a worst case scenario, imagine if everyone in the world that gave the bank money for them to give loans with decided that they wanted it to all simultaneously pull out their money.
Sure. So
it would never really happen. One, it would break a lot of things. But two, even if a lot of those people came back and asked for their money, I believe those are different types of situations and things to take in mind that these individuals calculate for when they're determining their SLRs. And I believe that the Fed is a critical process from what I'm gathering in helping to give these ratios and these kinds of numbers.
Assure that the banks do manage over time. And so again, in early stages of that, I'd be happy to talk to you.
So SLRs are conceived as a backstop to risk-weighted capital investments.
Secretary Yellen, could you provide your thoughts on that concern?
How hard to say what effect on SLR? What effect SLR expectation had on Treasury market? Yeah, no, I agree. Talk to you. I missed that because I was trying to give an explanation. But yeah, that's bad.
We all have too many buttons.
Really apologies. You want me to weigh in on the issue of lending and climate change?
Yes, that there will potentially be efforts by the financial regulators to move towards regulation, supervision, of environmental policy objectives. My folks are concerned that that will lead to discouraging banks from doing businesses in certain areas and certain sectors, and consequently potentially have a dramatic effect on their business model or their ability to function.
Well, you know, that climate change is a top priority for the Biden administration, but we agree that financial regulators should be assessing the risks to financial institutions through stress testing and other techniques.
Interesting.
And that investors need disclosure of risk, but have no
So it seems that there's a bit of concern. I'm assuming the previous gentleman is a Republican. Let me go check that real quick.
Thank you very much, and I can assure you,
the Oklahoma
I and my colleagues will watch that all very
What's his
closely.
name?
With that, I yield back, Chairwoman.
The gentleman before.
Thank you.
Okay.
The chair
What's his
now
name?
recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Meeks, chair of the Foreign
Do you guys
Affairs
catch that last
Committee
dude's
for
name?
5 minutes.
Yeah. I think the reason why he asked that question is pretty obvious. People that are not for green movement are concerned that
Meeks?
regulation demanding more accountability on climate change
If Mr.
with respect
Meeks
to business
is not
models.
available, we'll move on to Mr. Scott for 5 minutes.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Dude was a no-show.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah, people that are not in favor of green movement are concerned that there will be regulation in favor of green movement.
Chairman Powell, first to you.
Definitely a big concern if your money is made
rescue plan.
Otherwise.
We now have an opportunity to expand the child tax credit. the IRS has put forth a Get My Payment website, and I believe it could be used in conjunction with the efforts through the FDIC and the private sector to bring more Americans into our banking system using what is known as bank on certified safe accounts, but
Interesting.
only
Bank on
if
certified
it
safe account.
is able to be moved at this moment when we capture it. Because currently the IRS Get My Payment tool is only open for the status checks, but consumers are unable to add or change delivery information, and as they were able to do so with the delivery of the first stimulus checks. So, Chairman Powell, explain that. Don't you agree that this is an opportunity to increase financial inclusion through the use of certified bank on safe accounts?
Interesting.
Get My Payment.
Certified bank on safe accounts.
Sir, I would agree with you that
find that quite fascinating.
greater
So it's like
inclusiveness in the financial system is a goal of the highest priority for us and really
greater
for all financial
inclusivity.
regulators and for the country. I'm not familiar with the particular practice you're referring to, but I'll be happy to look into that and come back to you.
Okay, please do. And then there's another one with the Treasury Department called Get My Payment. All these things are good, but I appreciate you looking into them as
So
quickly
bank on,
as
you
you
guys,
can,
is kind
so
of what
that
this
if
gentleman's
they're
talking about.
there, we need to use them
Representative
now,
David Scott,
because
the
so
Georgia
many of
representative.
our people
Bank On's goal is to
cannot
ensure that
get the
everyone has
money
access to a
quickly
safe and affordable
because they
bank
don't
or
have
credit
the
union account.
kind of high standing within our financial system. So
So this
when
is
you
like
put these
the
things in like
third
Bank On
party
and Get My
kind
Payment,
of
we need to use them right
independent
now.
group
So
that
I appreciate you
determines who's
looking
part of the
into
cool
that.
kids club
Now,
of the bank
Secretary
world.
Allen, let me move to
And this
you.
guy's suggesting
The
that
American Rescue Plan also included
they backed that idea
$350
more.
billion in
And apparently,
assistance
according
to
to Powell,
state and local
his response earlier was
governments
that
to make up
and
for
greater
the
inclusion is
lost
one of their goals.
revenue
So that's something
and
to
to
note. It's a
ease the
sentiment that these guys have.
economic
When these
impact
guys
of the
have plans like that,
COVID-19 pandemic.
traditionally,
So could
historically,
you
there's
tell me,
movement made in
when
those
can
directions. So it's
local
something to note. You guys
governments
be informed as a
expect
retail investor.
Treasury to release guidance on
I definitely
the
recommend Googling Bank
American
On. I'm looking at their
Rescue Plan?
homepage right now. Bank On's goal is to ensure that everyone has access to a safe and
We
affordable
have
bank or
to
credit
issue
union account.
guidance quite quickly.
It's a really great way of
I
saying
think within 60 days.
you guys should use this bank
And to
for whatever backdoor
distribute
interest
the
that has,
funds,
or whatever
and
interest
we're
that
working
has.
very hard
It's something to note.
to sort through the issues that we need to
Bank On allows receipt of
in
stimulus,
order
et cetera, giving
to
access to all.
provide clarity
I
about
think any bank that you bank with
the
takes
purpose of the
deposits for
funds
stimulus checks
and
from the
how
government.
they can be used.
I don't think necessarily it has to be Bank
All
On.
right. Madam Chair Lady, I am concerned. We have the Treasury Secretary here, and we have the Chairman of the Federal
I see
Reserve
what they're
here.
doing.
And we passed this bill, and we put certain things in here to increase the delivery.
CFB's national sports, local
And
coalition, and financial institution
everybody
efforts to connect consumers
cannot
to safe,
get
affordable
these
bank accounts.
payments through
So maybe they're less of like a
electronic
club
accounts.
for Bank On and
Most
more
of
so
the
just like
people that you
advocating
and I have
for
been very
all of the
concerned
banks to
about
hold
getting inclusion
very
are not
affordable
getting these funds
accounts
as quickly.
for individuals so that they can
I
receive
just
financing.
want to encourage,
Yeah.
and I know you agree,
I like that.
but I want to take a moment here.
Further
We
due
passed
diligence
it's there.
is required on this Bank On.
Please, Treasury Secretary.
But it seems
please,
like
the
Representative
Federal
David Scott's
Reserve,
looking out for
all of
people of
us
the lower
need
class
to
in this
hurry
instance,
up.
which
We put these
I'm
things
always
in
for.
place so
I'm
we
always
can
for that.
reach those who have been excluded.
Because when we
very
minnows
quickly.
and when we apes
They need
band
the
together,
money as quickly
it's
as everyone
stronger.
else. Thank
Together.
you, Chair Lady.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Scott. I now recognize the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Posey, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Waters, for calling this hearing today. We continue to live in a period of uncertainty, but there is some good news on the horizon for our economy as it appears poised to recover rapidly as the vaccine is given to more and more people. Chair Powell told us in his semi-annual appearance a few weeks ago that the economy could grow by as much as 6% during this year alone. At the same time, other factors could cloud the horizon, such as our unprecedented level of deficit spending, increases in nominal Treasury and corporate bond yields.
So I think we might real quickly take a peep over
and the headlong pursuit of climate
and
change
see what's going on. Was you said Biden was live too?
Yeah, he was. Some
acquired
gun
energy
control news on the
independence.
horizon, apparently.
Secretary Yellen, you recently said that the Treasury
5% of American households are without bank accounts. Yeah, that's a problem. That is a problem.
It's ridiculous.
So I think that's what. Thanks for that, Madeline.
What would the purpose of such stress tests be?
I think the purpose of
I believe Bank On's mission is to help to mitigate that 5%.
analysis rather than stress tests.
I'd be curious to know if that 5%, what percentage makeup of that is individuals that just like hate banks, that are like my grandpa, that are like the mattress money stuffers.
Just gonna go
Just like
bury this in my
yeah,
backyard.
Exactly. Like let me just get weatherproof bags and boxes and bury all the cash. I'm not kidding. He's like that.
Will help
I
those
think he only got a debit card for like Social Security purposes for like direct deposit.
Are we doing any studies of the risk from solar interaction with our planet? I mean, a couple years ago, we missed a solar eruption that would have knocked out a lot of satellites and kind of put us in a dark age. Are we checking on natural phenomena like that as well?
Interesting.
Well, let me say.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can say, since we directly supervise financial institutions, we do supervise for institutions that are in areas of the country that are susceptible to significant weather problems, such as hurricanes.
Everyone that's been sticking with us, appreciate you
like
guys.
So we do that.
Make sure you hit that like button.
So
give us a little YouTube algorithmic love, baby. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
So,
keep the gears nice and oiled for us.
Some people think it will be a federal infomercial, like the old.
If you really want to get crazy, you could share the video, but I mean, like, require you probably having to leave this screen. So just stay.
Well, let me say that, first of all, many of the large financial institutions are already doing this, and the reason they're doing it is just what the secretary said. It is to try to understand at an early stage of this science, really understand what are the risks that are involved in climate change, and that one way to do that is to run simulations and ask what would happen if, what would happen. There are no regulatory consequences contemplated. It is an exploration in understanding better what the risks are to the core of our financial system, and we feel like that's our obligation, is to understand that. And again, the financial institutions are very much actively doing this on their own. It's not something we're forcing them to do.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, I don't know how many simulations we got to run to understand the risks of climate change, man. I mean, I think that's been a relevant conversation for like the last 20
individual
years.
financial institutions, many of the large banks,
it's ridiculous that that's still a thing.
Are very active in trying to understand how climate change would affect their business over the long sweep of time. Many or even all financial, and by the way, that's also true of large industrial companies in the United States.
And so are they sharing that information with you?
They're sharing with the public.
Does it seem consistent?
I think it's early days, honestly.
It's early days, bro.
Really,
come on.
Very early days in trying to understand what all this.
That's literally, yeah, it's a liquidity. Yeah, exactly, bro. This guy sounds like Robin Hood now.
For our financial system,
jeez, man. What do you mean? It's still early days.
To try to understand that, and again, I would say it is early days, but we feel like we have a responsibility to start the process of understanding.
And so
start the process of understanding. Bro, it's 2021, G. Let's go.
That they have missed or
That's why I'm saying we need younger people in
I
office,
think
bro.
we have a job, which is to assure that
that
the
would make some
institutions
things,
we
I think, move
regulate
faster.
are
I
resilient
feel
to
like
the risks
younger
that
people in
they're
office would
running.
increase the
public will
volatility of
expect
everything,
that,
but like,
and they have every right to
could be a
expect
good
that
thing, could
over
be a
time.
bad thing. Kind of
So
like the stock
we are
market right
there
now, you know?
to
It definitely improved the
we-
audio
this is,
too.
We don't have a this is
I would
consistent
say
with
there
our
would be
existing
production
mandate
value
for
increase for
supervision of
sure.
financial institutions. It's just the same mandate and a different risk.
That'd be cool, like a bunch of young people in office, but like
The
maybe we get
gentleman
like
from
this
Texas,
advisory
Mr.
board
Green,
of
is
just like
recognized for
the
5
ancients.
minutes.
We refer to them as like the council.
Thank you very much, Madam
and
Chair.
only go to them when we have
Madam
like
Chair,
serious
I don't want
questions.
the historic aspect of this
Like
hearing
Apple or
to
iPhone,
escape
and then we
us.
go to the council.
I'm a senior member of this committee.
Right.
I
30
have
years from now,
had
they'll have
many
Stonk back guys.
pleasures to appear
Yeah.
before this
With
committee,
me, man.
many secretaries of the Treasury and chairs of the Fed. And I must tell you, a paradigm shift is taking place, and I don't want it to be overlooked. Under your leadership, I have here the statement of the chairperson of the Fed, and in this statement, he says, while addressing progress that's being made, he states, "We welcome this progress, but will not lose sight of the millions of Americans who are still hurting, including lower wage workers in the service sector, African Americans, Hispanic, and other minority groups that have been especially hard hit." And then the Secretary of the Treasury, in her statement, she indicates that since taking office 2 months ago, we have been expediting relief to areas of greatest need, for example, small businesses, and especially the
Al Green.
smallest small businesses, which are disproportionately
thumbs up this dude. Let's
owned
go.
by women and people of color.
Texas.
Yeah,
Now,
Texas,
I
baby.
understand that there's still great work to be done, but I just don't want to overlook the fact that people are talking more now about the needs of minorities and women. Secretary Yellen,
we
you
know
have
that. We know
indicated
that, Al Green. Come on.
in a message that you presented not so very
Where's the
long
meat?
ago,
Where's the meat of this discussion?
comparing the 1.8 million fewer men in the labor force to the 2.5 million fewer women, you call this extremely unfair. This is the Secretary of the Treasury. So I'm grateful to both of you for understanding that it is now time for us to move forward on the issues associated with the wealth gap as it relates to minorities in this country, and especially issues related to women who happen to be more than 50% of the population of the country. This is historic to see this movement under your leadership, Madam Chair. I thank you, and I'm honored to serve under your leadership. Now to Secretary
Little
Yellen.
Al Green pump to the leadership.
I have a concern, and I'm concerned about the $10 billion that will go to the State Small Business Credit Initiative. I'm concerned because when this program
Talk to you probably because
was
he has like
instituted
individuals.
on a previous occasion,
How unfair
we have
is it?
reauthorized it in the rescue plan. But when it was authorized initially,
Very true.
it went to the state through the agriculture department. Then the agriculture department had the duty, responsibility, and obligation.
I'd say he's probably wearing a mask because he has individuals inside of that room that are helping him with his tech stuff. Like, look at this guy. It's clean. It's crisp.
In Texas, that
probably got
probably
some
is
assistants
not
in
the
the
best
room.
way to do business. So I have this consternation about it, and my hope is that we'll be able to get this to the end users in a much more expeditious way, such as what you have indicated you've been trying to accomplish. So my question is this, Madam Secretary, will you send us an outline of the timeline for implementation from money in the Treasury to capital in the coffers of the end users in the $9 billion emergency capital investment program?
Okay, he's asking a serious question. I like it.
Maxine Waters' leadership.
Al Green's asking how you putting money into William
and the $10 billion
Steele's
State Small Business
bank
Credit
account.
Initiative. Similarly, came into existence, and I would add also this last one had the help of the chairwoman.
You know what he needs on that
the
blazer?
Diversity and Inclusion
He needs an
Subcommittee,
SNN lapel pin.
Oh yeah,
lady,
we'll send him one for sure.
We'll send him one. We'll send him one. We got some SNN lapel pins if you guys want to put them on your blazers, tuxedos, ties, golf bags,
so I'm just
towels,
hopeful that we can get
or yourself if
outline
you're really
because
extreme.
I have people who question me daily about when will the money be available for us as end users to benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that your heart's in the right place. I believe you're working expeditiously. I just want to be able to answer those questions when they're posed to me. So again, I thank you. I'm grateful for this historic moment, and my hope is that this is only an indication of the better things to come. And Madam Chair, I will yield back some 12 seconds to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I now recognize the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Lukemeyer, for 5 minutes.
All right. Al Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And congratulations to you, Secretary Yellen, on your new position. Good to see you again.
I love this about politicians. They're all like,
my open comment is
congrats, by the way.
I also have another duty here in Congress, which is
like that's like an added like 5 seconds off each Congress statement. That adds up.
Which I'm sure
this is why you go to mathematics, you guys. Run the numbers.
You made some comments with regards to this administration being responsible for all the loans that are out there that are being taken by those entities, those small businesses under 20 or 10 employees. And I can quote you from my own press release.
For those that don't know, there's been, I was even able to go ahead and do the application process for it. If you have a small business, with all the stimulus stuff and all the CARES Act and all the stuff that's been rolling out, you can essentially get a loan that is forgiven. And it really helps with small businesses, but the process for getting it has been different on a case-per-case basis and who your lender might be. It's a whole thing. I'll be sure to like comment on it with the link. So if you guys have a small business, or if you are self-employed in any kind of way, Uber driver, Lyft, all kinds of things like that, you're potentially entitled to a forgiven loan, which it's always extra money. What you do with it, whether it goes to GME or AMC or
your staff to quit politicizing your statement,
a donation to SNN, who knows, but
with the facts.
Something to keep in
Mr.
mind.
Powell, we're halfway through the 2-year cycle now on CECL,
that would be
capital
a bad
delay,
video,
which will end in 2022.
Yeah.
And begin the phase-in of
a thing to note about the PPP, it is ending like in the next like 10 days, probably sooner. I just don't want to
reviewing the data.
Missay, but
tell us what the Fed's review of that data
if you want to apply for that loan, Google PPP loan application process and get yourself some money, honey. Yeah.
And if you could unmute, that'd be great.
If you can unmute.
I once again double-clicked.
And this dude's out here double-clicking.
Continuing to look at CECL.
You make great Call of Duty player.
I honestly don't have anything for you on that data. I will get a look at it quickly and come back to you.
Okay, that'd be great, because I think, having deferred it is something that you agreed to up front last year in the process. It was something that I think you probably agreed to again this time, and I think it's something we certainly need to review for sure, if not get rid of altogether, if a delay is something that we all believe was in the best interest of everybody affected by it. Also, Mr. Powell, from Chairman Powell, at this point, Fed data from third quarter 2020 indicates that 51% of the commercial real estate debt is now held by banks, and the FDIC data indicates community banks have a higher concentration of this of these loans than other lenders. At this point, again, Congress has provided relief from the financial institutions. With
Powell's got to mute Pornhub before unmuting himself.
The foreclosure moratorium. I think it's important we can have discussions around this and what will happen when this relief ends. Can you give us a little heads up as what you think will happen, the impact on balance sheets, economic recovery, if we take that extension, take that foreclosure moratorium off?
The local Shoney's.
I will look into that for you. Sorry.
Woo!
I apologize for my voice. I've got really bad allergies.
Sorry, guys.
Today,
Reporting live from the gutter.
So Powell
that time of year.
Dope music.
So you're right. We're monitoring CRE very carefully, and
the local
you're
Shoney's
absolutely right that it's concentrations.
Yo,
Isaac,
that's
smaller banks,
funny.
and we'll have to monitor it carefully as we allow those moratoriums to elapse. And I don't have anything for you on that today, but we're well aware of the issue, and we'll be sure to move very, very carefully when we do address that.
Well, as you know, I'm very concerned about this situation, because as we saw in 08 and 09, when we went in and very punitively shut down entire industries, especially in the community and commercial real estate and real estate development areas. It had a really, really devastating effect on not only local economies, but the economy
That
as a whole.
$6.99 buffet
So I hope we are
is
very,
different, bro.
very cautious about this. You and I have talked about this before with regards to forbearance and being able to allow these businesses to get back on their feet and see once what the real loss is before we go in and sort of scorched earth get rid of all these folks. But I appreciate your interest on that and your support on that. I know that you all are doing a good job of working with the banks at this point. And I would ask that you continue to do that. I realize some loans are bad. You got to write them off. That's fine. But I think if time is given with the nature of the economy the way it is, I believe we can get out a lot of the mess that we're in without having to go through the process of foreclosure. So I thank you for your thoughtfulness, and I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. The gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Cleaver, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, let me, again, hopefully for the last time, I apologize to you, the members of the committee, certainly our witnesses.
Oh, I like this dude's fit.
Not being
He's just like, bro, we're working virtually. Where the hoodies at?
Due to my current medical situation, but I thought it might be better for me to do this in the midst of meeting. If I can,
during this, the Bank of Canada deems crisis
I was here, and probably
oh
everybody,
wow!
at least on the Democratic side, who's spoken so far,
Canada's like pulling back on what they're providing the people for. People with. Dang.
When
Yo, talk T, man.
Tax cuts were
come to the US of A.
Approved the tax cuts and jobs.
Finish your school. Come to the US of A. Yes.
Temporarily.
We have big parties.
We have big.
Authorized. What was called
don't take you down south.
Zones, and I
drink a little bit of moonshine.
Excited about it. Didn't matter whether it was designed by Republicans, Democrats.
We'll make it with maple syrup for you too.
Buccaneers. I thought it was maybe that's going too far, but opportunity zones. You know, the incentives were designed to.
Can't swim on enough borders closed. Yeah, bro.
Investment in the economically distressed areas.
No problem, I teach you.
Around the country. And I've become concerned, even though I had great enthusiasm for this program, that the larger promise of this organization has not been realized. I thought, I believed, I hoped that we would have affordable housing, community-oriented amenities, like grocery stores, drugstores like CVS, would improve the quality of life in these low-income areas. But that my dream remains unrealized. Now, today, Chairman Green and I sent a letter, and let me say also parenthetically that Opportunity Zones is in Ways and Means, and I'm respecting that, except that there are some parts of this, especially as it relates to affordable housing, where opportunity zones could be extremely important. So here we are. I mean, we've seen some things to happen that I think are extremely unfortunate, and they bode poorly for what we can do in the future. And one of those things, Madam Secretary, is that
I was gonna say a whole lot of nothing,
we
dude.
have seen. For example,
she got a big booty because she got a big booty.
Yeah, literally, bro.
In some of the states had picked opportunity zones covering college campuses located in census tracts where over 90%
here we go.
of the residents are students. And, you know, I'm all for students, but I don't believe the program was designed, as I recall and read the initial proposal, for colleges. It was designed to discuss communities. At any rate, I'm talking too long, but I want to make sure that you understand the concerns we have. And in the remaining time, could you talk about what economics says about the benefits, you know, if we have this program maybe tweaked or redesigned in some ways so that the incentives actually help people in what we thought were going to be zones?
Oh, okay. So he's saying too many college kids are getting too much benefits out of this, yo. All right.
To increase
dude, come on. Students need money too, man. We're like literally below poverty rate.
Affordable
I remember I
housing,
was so broke when I was in
especially
school,
for
dude. Like
low-income
beyond
and
broke. I came out
historically
of school literally
marginalized
negative.
families, and
Still negative.
opportunity
But
zones
anyways, like just negative.
appropriately structured could contribute to that. There are a number of
Crypto
other
combo.
tools that we have that can contribute to affordable housing goals. The low-income housing tax credit, I think, is important in serving that purpose.
I like that low-income tax
The
credit. Yeah.
Capital Magnet Fund can also serve to facilitate investment in affordable housing construction. This is a top priority for the Biden administration. We're certainly open to exploring opportunities at Treasury and across the government to address the affordable housing shortage. We're operating
Affordable housing
at Treasury
shortage. That's
the
an interesting idea.
CDFI fund and the programs that will invest in CDFIs and minority depository institutions, and I think they can make a contribution. But we have a variety of programs and would look forward to working with you to see how we can use them to address this problem.
Interesting. Well, guys,
Thank you.
I'm going to be honest. Right now, all we're hearing is a bunch of individuals from different states kind of vent their opinions on what the current approach is for how they've been spending relief money, and it doesn't feel like we're getting anything concrete about
circles, bro.
Yeah, we're literally just being like ran in circles by professional circle runners.
Part of an email I received from a CPA constituent.
What's going on with Biden? I kind of want to change the channel. What do you guys feel? I'm feeling like changing the channel. What's going on with Biden?
He says extending the filing date of the 2020 tax returns was not an option. It was a necessity because of all the stuff being thrown at us.
I got some information that Biden was talking about, like gun control, which is always going to be a funny topic.
It's going to take software developers.
Oh, liquidity and crypto questions coming. Ooh.
This into the software correctly. Can you even imagine the amount of incorrect correspondence the IRS system is going to create?
Oh, you're speaking on the live shoot, on the mass shooting which took place.
Deal with straightening this out for them because they also can't get their systems changed correctly that quickly. It's going to be a mess this summer for sure. Extending the 2020 deadline by 30 days is minimal. It should have been till June 15 as the AICPA and the Ways and Means Committee recommended, but we can deal with that. Having the first quarter 21 estimated payment due on April 15,
This guy's talking about some seriously cool stuff. I've always been curious about how
is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. How do you think we determine what those estimates should be? Through the completion of the prior year return, to have the first quarter estimate due on April 15 without knowing where the prior return ended up is ridiculous. They should have just kept the filing date at April 15. So one, I want to know if you are aware of this problem, and two, whether you are committed.
Yeah, the IRS is definitely going to have a hard time with everything going on. I mean, the IRS is just having a hard time, period.
Sorry. I believe the logic of moving the one date but not the date for estimated taxes is based on the idea that it's mainly high-income taxpayers who file estimated taxes and that they're able to file by April 15th.
That's not true.
Let me just stop you right there.
I literally did estimated taxes.
An independent contractor coming out of college.
Yeah.
I was not a high income earner.
Yeah, exactly. He's saying the same thing I just said. I literally just did the same thing.
And there's all kinds of people like that who are small business owners, and they're in the middle of trying to keep their restaurant open.
Exactly. Yes. It's literally us right now at SNN, you guys. We did the same thing that this guy's talking about. So that lady's totally
violated the Michigan Health
All right, Yellen.
Order to
I think you're seeing too much brown.
But we've got a lot of those folks that need to understand what their tax liability is before they are going out and sometimes having to borrow cash to make that first estimate payment, especially those that are in seasonal work such as construction, landscaping, those kinds of things. So I don't want to take any more time on that. I do want to have that conversation with you and your staff offline. Mr. Powell, materiality. I want to touch on that. And the Fed's involvement in the network for greening of the financial system.
You have a rather interesting quote saying, regardless of the nature of any future engagement with them, we'll continue to set supervisory and regulatory expectations basically as normal. So one, that begs the question, why the involvement in that? And two, materiality. Doesn't it need to be definable as well as quantitative?
So what the NGFS really is regulators, supervisors from countries around the world who are trying to understand together what are best practices.
I know what it is. I know what it is. What I need to know
Yo, this dude's.
I like this guy.
When nobody can define it
Cut
or
the
come
bullshit,
to
bro.
an
Yeah.
agreement, how
Nice.
can it be measured and be quantitative?
Bill.
Well, we're
I'm
not
say
trying to
Huizenga?
measure or quantify something right now. We're trying to understand at a high
I'm gonna Google
level.
that dude.
What is
I
the
might have to
nature
write
of
him
the
a thank you
risks
letter
that
because he
will
literally was
affect banks
advocating for
over
a direct
time from
problem
climate
I'm
change.
having.
That might be your goal and objective. I know that's not the goal and objective of a number of my colleagues who have actually been talking about this needing to be into
Yo, this is the
review.
most fuego
currently.
conversation.
And what I'm afraid is that we're going to get dragged into that. My remaining last little bit, I do want to talk about
This dude's on
Secretary
point,
Yellen.
bro.
Yeah.
You're a professor, a lifelong
Nice.
educator. Do you agree that we should safely send our kids back to school to ensure their educational development? I'm very concerned about that impact on the future of our economy.
His audio quality is nice too.
But I am concerned about the impact of children
Why does it feel like
not being
her
in
quality's
school, and
just getting progressively
it is
worse
an
throughout the
important
entire thing?
objective to reopen the schools safely as soon as we can.
All right, my time has expired. I appreciate the time, and I look forward to that other conversation about the IRS.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up with him. The Bill Huizenga.
The gentleman from Connecticut is recognized for 5 minutes.
His question definitely made it to my notes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to both of you. Thank you to both of you for appearing. Couple quick things, and I do have one question for both of you. Chairman Powell, I saw with great interest your comments on cryptocurrency.
Crypto alert!
Not proceed without support from Congress and urged great care and transparency. I appreciate that. I think my subcommittee would probably have jurisdiction over that in some combination with Mr. Sherman's subcommittee. So I just wanted to tip my hat to that sentiment. And I think we should work together. There's quite a bit of education, I think, to be done with the United States Congress on that very important topic. Secretary Yellen,
Pretty much it's just like all these boomers need to know what's going on with crypto.
Thank you for all the work that you and your people have done. I would be remiss if I didn't urge you to be particularly quick on the rollout of the rules for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. That obviously is a sector that has been brutally hit in the last year or so. So we're hoping that those funds become available quickly. In my remaining 4 minutes, I have one question for both of you that I'd like to offer. It's undeniable that everywhere we look today, we see the effects of the very substantial liquidity in the system. And by the way, it's gratifying to see monetary and fiscal policy working in tandem. This was not true when I was a freshman in 2009, when the fiscal policy was working against the monetary policy for recovery. It's very gratifying to see that. But again, everywhere we look, we see the effects of a flood of liquidity in the system. That, of course, is in equity market prices, which have had a remarkable run, the high yield market, which is now yielding something like 4%. Everybody and their brother has a SPAC, real estate prices.
Everybody and their brother has a SPAC.
You get a SPAC,
so
and
my
you
question
get a
for both of
SPAC.
you, and let me ask you each to take 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. We learned in 2008 that trees do not grow to the sky. So I wonder if you each would just take 90 seconds to tell us what you see as the near to medium term risks associated with the inevitable contraction, though we may not know when it comes, of liquidity in the system. Let me start with the Treasury
that's a
Secretary,
crazy question.
For a response.
Or how they're gonna
the chairman.
answer that.
Oh, they're just gonna circle around it like they usually do.
Liquidity means.
Look, they're like having problems with their buttons again.
Secretary Yellen, you may need to
This is the
unmute.
4th time, man. This guy's got button
Apologies.
issues.
I'd say that
tweeting about
while asset valuations are elevated by historical metrics, there's also belief that with vaccinations proceeding at a rapid pace, that the economy will be able to get back on track. I think in an environment where asset prices are high, that what's important is for regulators to make sure that the financial sector is resilient and to make sure that markets work well and that financial institutions are appropriately managing their risks.
Chairman Powell, that's a pretty good segue over to you.
Monetary policy is highly accommodative right
What's
now.
your favorite
That is
number?
appropriate
I like
given
blue.
how far we are from our,
It is sad.
our employment goal and our inflation goal for that matter. I think the first thing I would point to is just our overall monitoring of financial stability. So we look carefully at financial stability on an ongoing basis. We have a framework with 4 pillars. If you look at those, the evidence is kind of mixed. You can say that asset prices are somewhat, some asset prices are a bit high, but the banking system is highly capitalized, and funding risk is relatively modest. The remaining category is really leverage among households and businesses, which is somewhat elevated, but nothing like it was before the financial crisis. So it's a mixed picture on that. The main thing is to have a resilient financial sector that can
oh my gosh,
withstand the sorts of disruptions that will come. In terms of moving forward, we've said that we would
these are basics. Come on,
taper
pal.
our asset purchases when we've seen substantial further progress toward our goals. When that comes, we'll communicate well in advance of the time of actually tapering. That's what we do. We've learned over the course of some years now that we need to communicate carefully and move slowly, well ahead of time. We will.
That's an oxymoron. Move slowly, well ahead of time.
That's the best we can do to make sure that the transition away from
better.
very highly accommodative monetary policy as the economy reaches full
toilet water?
employment and price stability goals, that will transition to a different policy.
Thank you. The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman
right, yeah, exactly,
When it comes, we will communicate well before tapering.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And Secretary Yellen, you have created a team within Treasury to focus on climate change. You are also the chair of the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which is charged with identifying systemic risk to the financial system. I certainly understand that changes to weather patterns could pose risk to individual credits or insurance policyholders, but linking hypothetical climate scenarios to risk to the entire financial system seems to me highly speculative. And on the flip side, I worry that injecting ill-defined climate scenarios into financial regulation and supervision creates the immediate and very real risk of driving investment and credit allocation away from job-producing industries like fossil energy, an industry that still provides 80% of total energy consumed in the United States and remains the most affordable and reliable source of energy to the American economy. Are you incorporating this real risk into your assessments around climate? And how do you plan to account for the disruptions in the labor market, the very significant disruptions to the labor market from lost energy jobs? And what about increasing energy prices and decreasing reliability for consumers? Is that something FSOC will look at in addition to in the context of your climate czar? And you need to unmute.
Again, with the mute.
I believe
Seems the market isn't happy with the MFL. Yeah, no, not at all.
In
She needs time to Google.
arranging discussions among financial regulators, all of whom have responsibilities for assessing risks from climate change to the financial
Everything's down. The market's red.
They supervise and regulate to coordinate a system-wide response using the best available tools. I think FSOC can facilitate identification of data and information, including high-quality financial disclosures that are needed to understand climate risks and make sure that climate risks are addressed fully in light
I feel like
of
she's
these
like
assessments.
potentially
I don't see
imploding right
FSOC
now, and she's
as
just saying like
playing a
things that are
role
like
in
hot button
telling
items like
financial
climate
institutions
risks.
what kind of lending
Reboot.
they can do.
Buy the dip.
But
Buy the dip. Yeah.
information is important.
To the moon.
Thank you. And just reclaiming my time, I would just encourage Treasury
Her mainframe is
to
malfunctioning.
consider the role that shifting consumption away from fossil energy towards renewables, despite the market's continued demand for fossil, that the impact that could have on the economy as well, and systemic risk, as opposed to just looking at hypothetical climate scenarios. Broadband, Madam Secretary, the pandemic has been especially hard for rural families who don't have broadband connection in my home state of Kentucky. And I'm glad that the American Rescue Plan allows for necessary investments in broadband, but one of the ongoing problems we've had is that funding on broadband infrastructure often goes to areas that already have broadband, and the dollars never get to underserved areas like in my district. I was disappointed that this committee, in the markup of the American Rescue Plan, rejected my amendment to dedicate funds to rural areas for broadband. Will you commit Treasury to
this dude's talking about rural areas getting broadband, bro. Starlink's on its way. Stop playing.
First and foremost.
Yeah, I also have a total side note, you guys. I'm just gonna go on a rant. Starlink's gonna change the whole "I want to live in a city" fad that we millennials and Zoomers are currently all about.
What about broadband, bro?
Ultra low latency, incredibly fast satellite internet coming to you from the guys at SpaceX. Let's go. I'm so excited for that. I already got it pre-ordered. So yeah, we're going to be running off some Starlink juices here soon.
But
Yellen needs to order a new floppy disk to
upgrade her
sound.
Bro, for real.
Is to precisely how they
You're on it. You're on it, Talk T. Talk T's on one today. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you. And I look forward to working with you and Treasury on that. I appreciate that. I think we can work together on that. Final question. With the multi-trillion-dollar deficit spending bill just passed, the promise of an additional $3 trillion in spending by this administration on top of the $4 trillion in borrowing because of COVID last year, does the Treasury or the Federal, both of you, intend to lengthen the maturity of government debt before interest rates rise?
Treasury has been looking at this question and has no current plans to do that.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Foster, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank
Her
you,
voice kind
Madam
of puts
Chair.
me at ease. I like her.
Secretary Yellen, Chair Powell, I'd like to probe a little bit deeper on central bank digital currencies, and in particular the need for digital ID for participants. I believe that both of you are on the record as acknowledging that an anonymous, untraceable digital dollar is not a viable option for our country or the free world because its ability to be abused for money laundering, terrorism financing, ransomware, and so on. Is that principally correct?
I don't think I am on the record for that, but I'll go on the record now for it.
Oh.
Nor am I on the record, but I would agree that we need to be very careful about the use of a digital currency for illicit finance, and
oh my gosh, okay, come on.
Anonymous currency makes that much harder to control.
Yeah, well, I concur. I think it's sort of logically impossible, and so.
I like what he said. That's logically impossible.
I believe that the Chinese approach to digital currencies that give the government immediate and unconditional access to all transaction information will be equally unacceptable to Americans and to most citizens of the free world. And therefore, a digital dollar will be crucially dependent on having an effective authentication component. That is a secure and legally traceable and maximally privacy-preserving way for participants to authenticate themselves as a unique, legally traceable individual, a secure digital ID. And it must be backed by a trusted court system and a clear legal regime to determine the conditions under which the participants might.
I think we're getting into some global government talk
as a
here.
Digital dollar, if it's to be used internationally, we're then going to need a digital ID system that operates internationally, at least among the free countries of the world. I'd like to thank you both for beginning engagement with authorities in
And we
other
live in
countries
exciting
on
times, you
central
guys.
bank
This is
digital
going to be
currencies. And I was
crazy to see
wondering
how
where you see this
the
discussion
regulations
going
deal with
as
this.
far as a secure digital ID and a means of authentication across boundaries, across countries.
Yeah.
Maybe I should let Chair Powell. I should let Chair Powell start with this because he's been more involved than I have.
Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, where we are is we are engaged in a process of looking at all of the technical issues and design issues which interact with each other, and that's one of the most basic ones. Reflecting your earlier question, I don't think that a system that relies entirely on for example, completely private governance or completely secret information about who's actually owning the digital dollar would not be viable. And the lack of privacy in the Chinese system is just not something we could do here. At the same time, so there's got to be a balance, and it does call for using the two-tiered system in some way, so that there's a wallet outside of the central bank, and transfers can take place there, and that there are appropriate protections. We're only beginning to think carefully about these things, and it's going to be a careful, detailed, and probably lengthy process of consideration. One that we're investing.
You heard it here first, good folks.
Will last some time.
Still shouldn't expect much crypto regulation anytime soon.
Secretary Yellen, did you have any thoughts on this? The issue of
get the Lord Elon on the phone quick.
Very much in your court,
Pump the
having
dog.
to do with one of the things the coronavirus laid bare is the lack of simply a list of citizens of the U.S. and in our ability to rapidly distribute funds, particularly to the underbanked. A high quality and universal digital ID in the U.S. would have made that immeasurably easier, as well as everything from
idea of a university digital ID is interesting.
You name it.
That's for sure.
And so this has been
Universal digital ID.
It's an ongoing discussion on many fronts, and there are also specific proposals. I believe.
Talk tea.
I believe you've had.
I need you to drink like 3 more cups of coffee, man.
Both
You're
of
going
you
off.
to look into this.
You rock.
I love it.
And so I was just wondering what the state, just as simply as a means for citizens to receive payments, Fed accounts, each one of us has, already an account with the federal government.
We're going to keep the audio running, guys, and take a quick look over at what the market looks like. Get you guys a quick market update.
I think it's something that's worth exploring. I've not done so, but we would be glad to have further conversations with you about how something like this could work. There's certainly a
ETFs, cryptos, interesting.
This time has expired.
Well, guys,
from Texas, Mr. Williams.
Oh, we got a Texas rep. Yeah, this is not fun. I'm gonna just get away from that, guys. That did not look pretty.
The Biden administration tax plans are becoming clearer each day. And from what we've learned so far, the president was not really telling the truth when he told voters that anyone earning less than $400,000 would not have a penny raise in taxes. Now, this number has been reduced to anyone making $200,000 a year.
Ooh, calling them out on that taxing, baby. Look at that TCU cap in the background. Shout out.
Hard-earned paychecks as Democrats can fund their progressive priorities.
Ooh.
In addition to individual tax rates going up, the corporate tax
like
rates
this guy. Where's he at? We'll find out what city he's in.
We will no longer have one of the most competitive tax rates in the world. This will stifle business investments, prevent employers from hiring more people, and reduce capital struggling businesses that will need to make the necessary changes to accommodate the new normal after COVID-19. So, Chairman Powell, can you talk about the correlation between business investment and productivity gains, and how increasing productivity benefits workers and the overall economy?
Sure. I mean, really the way living standards rise over time is through increasing productivity, more output per hour. Without that, incomes can't sustainably rise, and that is significantly connected to investment in human capital, and also in advancing technology.
Okay, thank you. Okay. At the beginning of 2020, Congress updated the Bank Secrecy Act and made some of the largest changes to our anti-money laundering laws in decades. When this legislation was signed into law,
I'm pretty sure this dude hangs out with Willie Nelson on the weekends. I'm pretty sure they're both chiefing up that high. This is not a mids-looking dude. Look at those eyes. Look at those eyes, brother.
As a small business person, I can tell you that's a burden that we do not look
Oh,
forward to.
bro, he's close to us, man. He's out in Austin, like between
law,
Fort Worth,
I hope you
Austin.
will
That's where the
be
25th
mindful of
congressional
this and
district
do all you
is.
can to
Oh yeah,
ensure
man.
businesses
Oh yeah, this
allow
dude's out here with Matthew
these steps
McConaughey,
with
like,
significant
hey, all right.
So, Secretary Yellen, can you give us
Hey,
a
howdy,
status
y'all.
update on
McConaughey
Treasury
here.
and FinCEN's work in implementing the anti-money laundering
Dude's been
Act
all
of
over YouTube
2020?
lately too, man. Hopefully we'll be able to do some Texas cross-platforming with the old McConster. That'd be so
Yes.
sick. Ask him what he trades on
Timely and effective
Robinhood.
implementation
He's
of
like
the
AMC, baby,
Anti-Money
popcorn
Laundering Act
all
of
the time.
2020 is the top priority at FinCEN.
What's
Our
up,
efforts
YCE
are well
bots?
underway, and several of
What's
the
up, Paul?
provisions of the
YC
act
bots, why do I feel like you're about to drop like some spam?
that involve FinCEN looking at innovation,
Yeah, he is an OG, yeah.
regulatory reform,
I
and the
agree.
like, we're actively engaged in. So this is something that's a high priority, and we're making progress on it.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Chairman Powell, in the past, we have talked about the workforce participation rate and how we need to get people off the sidelines and contributing to our economy. In other words, just put them to work. In your testimony, you note that this figure is
representative is
still
my
notably
kind of
lower
guy,
than it
dude.
was
Look at his
before the
top shelf.
pandemic, and
Novels
yet the
and short stories are at the
COVID-19 bill
top
recently
shelf.
extended the enhanced
He knows what's important.
unemployment benefits until September. Now, I have consistently expressed my concerns about how this policy will be detrimental to our economic recovery and make it more lucrative to, frankly, live off these overly generous government
I love
programs
how there's just like
and go out and find a job.
2 horses and they're
Chairman
like
Powell,
doing some
given the
tracking in the
enhanced
background on
unemployment
there,
benefits are
bro.
now law, how should we be
It's like some real
incentivizing
Texan
people
stuff
to
right
get
there. I'm
off
surprised
the
there just isn't a
sidelines
big cattle,
and
like just
back in the
longhorn cattle
workforce
just
and
like
make a
staring
good
at you.
living for their families?
I think the most important thing is for people to get vaccinated so that we can get the economy
Yeah,
fully
talk
reopened
to you.
so that those jobs can come back and people can feel safe doing them.
Keep Austin, yeah. Keep Austin weird.
Do you have an answer to that, Ms. Yellen?
Well, I agree. I agree with that. Many people who are not working are not doing so because of safety considerations or because they have children out of school. And the studies that have been done about whether or not the additional payments discourage work show pretty clearly that they don't serve to do that. In addition, they will be expiring in the fall.
Well, in my remaining time, we talked about increasing taxes earlier. I would just
Yeah,
say,
talk about them
small
taxes,
business
baby. Talk
owner
about them.
employs hundreds of people in Texas. It's pretty simple. If you cut taxes, you increase jobs. If you raise taxes, you cost jobs. Any way you look at it. So I hope that everybody will understand that raising taxes to any business is not good for our economy. With that, I yield back my time, Madam Chairman.
Thank
Yes,
you very
sir.
much.
Man's preaching that.
I now
Preaching that
call on
taxation.
Mr. Vargas from California for 5 minutes.
Cali.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate very much this hearing. I also congratulate in the strongest way Secretary Yellen. It's what an honor.
He kind of looks like my
to have
lawyer.
a woman now running Treasury. It's very, very exciting.
We are experiencing some technical issues getting Representative Juan Vargas and his kind of
scolds
deal
about
going
deficit spending when we Democrats are
Man, they're
in
still
power.
going.
They
They're
don't
still
seem to
going.
remember that when they are, especially their 1.9 trillion giveaway to the wealthiest American tax giveaway. It's probably even more now because the wealthy have made so much money during this pandemic. But one of the things that I have found so interesting about this particular hearing is that we have two incredibly intelligent people presenting today, and one's a Democrat and one's a Republican.
Yeah, the Fed's definitely
One
bipartisan right now.
appointed by a Democrat and one was appointed by a Republican. And yet they seem to be principled, scientific, speaking about the facts and not crazy things. I mean, this is the way it used to be. And so I appreciate it very, very much. And again, can't tell you how
I can't do
how
this
much
anymore.
I have enjoyed
I can't.
listening to these
This guy's wasting my time.
conversations. I'm sure that
We're going to the live broadcast. Skip.
Can you certify that for us today?
We do want to make sure that
Do a little
SDR
fast forward. Get some
allocations
real-time
are
actions.
used to release poverty and address real needs. And we'll work with them and with China to ensure that they don't go to repaying loans from the Belt and Road Initiative.
In China, turning to Russia.
Here we go. Some China-Russia news.
President Biden acknowledged last week that Vladimir Putin is a killer. Killers don't deserve a blank check from the IMF, do they?
Ooh.
Well, as I said, an SDR allocation goes to members in accordance with their quotas in the IMF.
Well, I've
Yeah,
argued,
for real,
and I
talk
hope
to you.
you'll work with us. You're skirting Congress by limiting the SDR allocation to $650 billion that you've discussed with your G7 colleagues.
Ooh.
But you're not taking the efforts I think are important for America's national security to limit this hard
French Hill's
currency
going
access going to some of the worst regimes in the world. Will you commit to work with Congress to limit this SDR allocation access to Iran, Assad, Venezuela?
This is that same SDR
Russia,
earlier, you guys.
China?
The supplemental
We are
ratios.
working with the IMF to craft
Or
rules
supplementary
that will
ratios.
promote transparency and make it difficult.
And you guys
for
are seeing some.
countries
I like
need
that.
to
That was some
find
good
willing
conversation right there.
partners to exchange SDRs, and that requirement will limit the uses for some of the countries that you mentioned.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I yield back.
Time has expired.
It's new news to me also that Joe Biden
Mr.
acknowledged
Gottheimer, the
Putin as a
gentleman from
killer.
New Jersey is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, Chairman Powell and Secretary Yellen for being here today. Secretary Yellen, if I can start with you, the SALT deduction cap jammed through Congress in 2017 tax hike bill raised taxes for majority of the families in my district. All 4 counties and the scores of middle-class families I represent had an average SALT claim above the $10,000 cap. For example, in Bergen County, the average taxpayer claimed $24,783 before the cap went into place, and the average property tax alone was $12,398 last year. These are my community's teachers and first responders and small business owners, young people trying to start a family. All groups were struggling, obviously, during the pandemic. It's high time we fought back against these moocher states that put this into place. My district has taken advantage of these by these folks enough. Our taxes need to be cut, not raised.
And now on to some real news.
Removing the SALT cap has broad bipartisan support. Will the administration support eliminating the SALT cap and fully reinstating the deduction, ending this misguided policy of double taxation on my constituents?
Well, I do think that the SALT cap is a feature of TCJA that resulted in very disparate treatment. There are a lot of options that have been presented, and I would work with you to try to ensure that the inequities that this caused are remedied in a fair and responsible way. As you mentioned, there's a bipartisan proposal to repeal the cap. President Biden discussed a proposal that would cap itemized deductions at 28%. The caps could be increased. So I think we need to study just what impact it's had and look forward to working with you to find a fair way to address it.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and I really look forward to working with you too on that.
Oh, sorry, guys.
If I just one other item, given the
Seems like
number
we're
of rural
going-
locations throughout the
going on
country, including in my district, that
What's
still
good,
don't have
J
true
School?
broadband connectivity, I believe the Treasury should make sure any American Rescue Plan Act broadband infrastructure dollars are
Rahos,
targeted
yes, sir.
to truly
We're going to really
underserved
quickly
areas,
cut
right, to
you
avoid
guys. We're
overbuilding.
going to leave the
For
audio
example,
on, but we're going to
according
quickly
to a recent
cut to
survey,
a tweet
by the census,
by one
only
of the
69%
Hodl
of residents in
men,
White Township in
Roaring
my district
Kitty,
have
to
broadband
give you guys
connectivity. So
kind of
even
where I
northern
think
New
he
Jersey, there's lots of
stands on the
places that
current
don't have
GME
connectivity or very limited connectivity. I
earnings
was
calls
wondering,
and kind of
based
where
on the
he thinks
legislation
we're
that
headed to.
was just signed into law,
So,
will you commit
yeah,
Treasury
let's
to
head on
using the
over
authority Congress gave it to
transition
see
real
that
quick.
broadband funding is spent first and foremost on underserved areas and
So we
avoid
got Roaring
overbuilding?
Kitty's Twitter right here, and we're gonna go straight into
6 minutes ago.
the GIF that was posted 6 minutes ago, you guys.
But I will.
I think we know where he stands.
I'd also mention that the ARP.
For those who don't know, this is the interstellar scene where they're using like the black hole to literally like slingshot around and go to like mega speed. So yeah, that's where we're at there. Super stoked. Great to see it. You love to see it.
Money in the ARP for
he just likes the stonk.
He just likes the stonk.
What can be done?
I was thrilled about that. Obviously, something I fought hard for, the $10 billion fund for broadband. And I think the way it's written, the Treasury has latitude here, and I'd love to talk to you about that further to make sure that it goes to places that don't have broadband connectivity now. So we don't overbuild, which has been a mistake in the past, as you know.
And they're out here on the broadband. I will say though, talking about broadband and
last question in my minute left.
Internets and such.
And it's okay, Secretary.
Nokia, for those that don't know, they kind of flew under our radar, but we kind of had a little bit of information come to us about Nokia. We'll keep listening to what's going on with the hearing, but we're gonna move right on over here real quick, you guys.
It's a great
I want you guys to see
to make sure we go after
kind of
tax cheats or people
what
don't pay what they
has been going on with the
taxes otherwise.
5G deals that Nokia has been doing, man. Like Nokia has been on a roll, as you guys see. 5-year deal with AT&T to deploy 5G network to certain parts of the United States. Nokia's been flying under our radar for a while now. I only remember them from back in the day when we had serious flip phones. I was a huge Nokia flip phone guy for a while. But yeah, Nokia's been going hard with their 5G contracts, both with like government agencies, other business-to-business pipelines, and their tests that they've been running for how they deploy it and how the structure for 5G works is like the most responsive and the best possible, hence why they're getting awarded all these contracts. But yeah, keep an eye out for Nokia.
Thank you so much for your
all this
time,
random
and,
broadband talk that these politicians have been discussing. Just kind of brought that to mind.
I'm personally slowly going to start opening a position on them too.
Yeah, Nokia, yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate the
panelists
being with us today. First question is, the majority and the administration recently.
He's just like, I'm gonna step outside real quick, guys, and take this call.
Put a towel over my head.
Because we're in an economic crisis, but now all of a sudden the administration thinks the economy is strong enough to withstand a major tax increase, the first in 30 years, and during the middle of a pandemic. The notion that the economy is in crisis and the notion that the economy is strong cannot both be true at the same time. So, Secretary Yellen, can you tell us which is it? Is it strong?
Good iPhone audio though.
Crisis?
Sure that this guy's using iPhone.
Well, right now it's in crisis due to the pandemic, and the rescue package should provide the funding that's needed to address the pandemic and to relieve the suffering that it's caused getting people to the other side of it. It's been deficit funded. There haven't been tax increases to finance it. But once the economy is strong again, we're beyond the pandemic.
You're right, Dr.
President
I'm definitely gonna have to
Biden
be taking a look at it.
likely to propose that we engage in
The candles for the wicks
plans
for
to address
Nokia.
long-standing investment shortfalls in our economy, in infrastructure and investments to address climate risk, investments in people, investments in R&D and manufacturing, and these will make our economy more productive.
A bunch of boomers
raise
deciding
wages,
how many
create
bananas
good
they can
jobs.
eat in a week.
It's necessary to pay for them. This would be spending over a 10-year horizon, and
Guys, I think I'm hitting
some additional funding.
my
He's been
limit
clear about the tax
for the day
proposals that
on how
he
much
would
of this circle
consider.
jerking I
One
can
of
watch.
those would be,
Congratulations.
I've extracted some good information, I feel. I hope you guys have taken
28%,
something out of what they've been talking about.
coupled with reform of the guilty
But I'm sure we'll
to
post some
reduce the
smooth
incentives
brain,
of
too long,
American
didn't
companies
watch
to
video
move their
about what's been going on with the
activities
Fed
abroad
and what's been going
to
on with bonds. We
offshore
do have another
activities.
kind of breakdown of what's going on with the bonds and the market video that we are posting today in a few hours. So be sure to take a look at that when you guys get the chance. You know, show some love. It'll sum up a lot of what would have been nice to know before you hear this hearing. So you'll at least be able to take the information you got from this hearing and run it over with a nice set of ears, kind of having confirmed what the Treasury yields are, and then the relationship to that to the stock market and stock prices and valuations, and the relationship between bond yields and the stock market.
We did our best to smooth brain it as much as possible.
Yeah. I feel like for a pair of smooth brains, we do pretty good.
Even during the pandemic, but economists and even Chairman Powell were projecting up to 6% growth in 2021 before the bill was even signed into law. And the economists also believe the package is 6.5 times larger than it needs to be. And I agree with the former Democratic Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, who said the
seems like Representative Loudermilk is
So I don't think you can
calling them out for making the money printers run too much, honestly.
Speaking out of both sides of our mouth here, and Secretary Yellen.
We've lost 9.5 million jobs. We have an unemployment rate that, if you add in people who have dropped out of the labor force because of the pandemic, is running at probably over 9%. So we have.
Well, guys, that's going to be the last little bit we hear from her.
In our economy.
We will be
reclaiming my time here.
Reclaiming my time. Right, yeah. We're moving on out from that end. We're going to go ahead and give that a pause and transition back to where the apes belong. Guys, thank you so much for joining in on today's live stream. Thank you for your comments, your inputs, your support, everything you guys have been doing for the channel and the videos have been major, you guys. We're growing really fast. We're expanding. We're taking on new personnel. Expect some new specials from us. We've been working on a project. We can kind of talk about Stonk U. It will really be a helpful education platform for personal financial literacy, as well as stock market literacy, all kinds of stuff for the retail investors, for our fellow lunar apes. We have a lot of exciting things on board, and thank you guys so much. I can't emphasize that enough. I don't have much to say other than that. Be sure to like, subscribe if you haven't already, share some videos, share some love. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, every platform. We do also have some job postings on LinkedIn that do not require relocation. So if you're looking for a new part-time or potential full-time position with the Stonk News Network, check it out, you guys. Like I said, we are expanding pretty aggressively right now. But yeah, that's it. We'll be back on tomorrow for another live stream every Monday through Friday, and in the afternoons we'll be giving you guys some juicy content, a little bit more production value on those. But thanks a lot, you beautiful retail investors. If you want real financial news in real time, you know where to get it.